Close your eyes. Not tightly. Not forcefully. Just enough to let the world soften. Let the noise of the day fall back, as if it were never really part of you. And ask yourself, quietly, how much of what you see is truly real, not useful, not familiar, but real. Plato begins exactly here. In this doubt. In this pause between appearances and truth. He was born into privilege. Into the aristocracy of Athens. Around 427 BCE. At a time when the city was tearing itself apart. Through war, ambition, and the slow erosion of moral certainty. Plato was meant for politics. Power ran in his family. Leadership was expected of him. But then Socrates happened. And once you encounter Socrates, you can no longer rule others without first ruling yourself. Socrates did not give Plato answers. He gave him something far more dangerous. The habit of questioning everything. And when Athens executed Socrates, not for crimes, but for unsettling comfortable minds, Plato understood something essential. A society that cannot tolerate philosophy will always mistake wisdom for threat. From that moment on, Plato turned away from politics, as it was practiced, and toward philosophy, as it should be lived. His work is not a system of doctrines. It is a long conversation between the soul and the truth it half remembers. Plato never writes in his own voice. Instead, he stages dialogues. Living encounters where ideas clash, hesitate, and sometimes collapse. Because truth, for Plato, is not something handed down. It is something recalled. This is where his most famous idea begins. The theory of forms. Look around you, even now. Every object you see is imperfect. Every circle you draw is slightly flawed. Every act of justice falls short of perfect justice. And yet, you somehow know what a perfect circle is. You recognize injustice when you see it. Where does this knowledge come from? Plato's answer is radical. He says, you are not learning these things. You are remembering them. Beyond this visible world. Beyond time. Beyond decay. Exists a realm of forms. Perfect, eternal realities. Not physical objects, but pure essences. The form of beauty. The form of justice. The form of goodness. What we experience in daily life are shadows of these forms. Reflections distorted by matter, by desire, by ignorance. The soul, Plato says, once knew these forms before it was born. And philosophy is the slow act of remembering who you really are. This is not abstract metaphysics for Plato. It is deeply personal. Because if reality itself has a higher order, then your life must be oriented toward it. Truth is not relative. Goodness is not subjective. Beauty is not merely preference. They exist independently of opinion. And this belief leads Plato to one of the most haunting images in the history of thought. The allegory of the cave. Imagine human beings, chained since childhood, inside a dark cave, They cannot turn their heads. They can only look forward. Behind them burns a fire. Between the fire and the prisoners, objects are carried, casting shadows on the wall in front. The prisoners take these shadows to be reality. They name them. They argue about them. They build entire lives around them. Then one prisoner is freed. At first, he resists. The light hurts his eyes. The shadows felt safer. But slowly, painfully, he turns toward the fire, toward the entrance, toward the sun. And when he finally sees the world as it is, he realizes something devastating. Everything he once believed was only a shadow. Now imagine he returns to the cave. His eyes, accustomed to light, can no longer see the shadows clearly. The others laugh at him. They call him blind. They say enlightenment has ruined him. And if he tries to free them, they may kill him. Plato is not just describing ignorance here. He is describing human resistance to truth. Most people do not fear darkness. They fear having their reality undone. Philosophy, then, is not comforting. It is destabilizing. But Plato believes that without this painful ascent, the soul remains imprisoned. This is why education, for Plato, is not about information. It is about turning the soul. You cannot force wisdom. You can only orient desire toward the good. This brings us to Plato's vision of the just life. Justice, for Plato, is not merely lawfulness. It is harmony. The soul has three parts. Reason, the part that seeks truth. Spirit, the part that seeks honor and courage. Appetite, the part that seeks pleasure and survival. A just soul is one where reason rules, spirit supports, and appetite obeys. Not crushed, not denied, but placed in proper order. Injustice, then, is not just wrongdoing. It is internal chaos. When appetite rules, the person becomes enslaved to desire. When spirit rules, they become aggressive and vain. Only when reason governs does the soul become free. This same structure appears in Plato's vision of the ideal state. In the Republic, he imagines a society structured according to the soul. Rulers, guided by reason. Guardians, guided by spirit. Producers, guided by appetite. Each class does what it is best suited for. Justice emerges not from equality of power, but from harmony of function. This is where Plato becomes controversial. He argues that philosophers, those who love truth more than status, should rule, not because they desire power, but because they are least likely to abuse it. The philosopher-king does not rule for personal gain. He rules out of duty, like a doctor treating the sick, even when it is unpleasant. Plato is deeply aware that this vision is unlikely to be realized. But philosophy, for him, is not about what is. It is about what ought to be. The ideal exists to judge the real. Without ideals, politics becomes merely the management of desire. Plato's concern with the soul extends into love itself. In the Symposium, he presents love not as possession, but as ascent. We begin by loving bodies, then souls, then laws and knowledge, and finally, beauty itself. True love, for Plato, is not about holding on. It is about being led upward, from the particular to the eternal. Love is the soul's memory of perfection. This is why love feels like longing. You are not missing another person. You are missing the form they momentarily reflect. Even art, for Plato, is bound to this metaphysical structure. And here, he is severe. Art, he says, is imitation of imitation. A painting imitates a physical object, which already imitates a form. Art can move emotions without educating reason. It can make injustice appear noble. It can make ignorance seductive. Plato does not fear art because it is powerful. He fears it because it is too powerful. Without discipline, this is not hatred of beauty. It is reverence for truth. Plato believes that beauty without wisdom becomes manipulation. Underlying all of Plato's philosophy is one supreme principle: the form of the good. It is beyond being, beyond knowledge. It is what gives reality its intelligibility, and life its direction. You do not merely know the good. You orient your entire existence toward it. To live well is to align the soul with what is highest. And this alignment requires discipline, education, and above all, self-examination. Plato's philosophy is not escapism. It is moral seriousness. He asks, what kind of soul are you becoming? Not what do you own? Not what do you achieve? But what shape is your inner life taking? Because for Plato, death is not the end. The soul survives, and it carries its habits with it. Philosophy is preparation, a training in dying to illusion, before death does it for you. This is why Plato believed that the unexamined life is not worth living. A lesson inherited directly from Socrates. To live without questioning is to remain in the cave. By choice. Plato does not promise happiness in the modern sense. He promises clarity. And clarity, once seen, cannot be unseen. So when you open your eyes again, remember this: the world you see is not the world as it is.